Hi, and welcome to Hull TV. I'm Dana O'Brien, and I'm joined by Ian Hull and Suzana Popovic-Montag, partners at Hull LLP, an innovative law firm that practices exclusively in estate, trust, and capacity litigation. Here at Hull TV, we're exploring the issues around estate planning that affect you. And one of those issues, Ian and Suzana, is the family cottage, that piece of real estate that brings families together, but can also drive them apart. Suzana, let's start with you. Why is a family cottage so contentious when it comes to estate planning?
I think the reason for that is because there's an emotional component to this kind of a property, the family cottage, that makes it difficult in many cases for people to treat it perhaps in a rational fashion as they would any other estate asset. Many times these properties are in the family for many years or even generations, and so it becomes a very complex and difficult asset to deal with as part of the estate plan.
So Ian, how do we make things less complicated and avoid a family fight when it comes to the cottage?
Well, I think that, as Suzana points out, we need to break the issue down into two components. The first is the financial element of it, and the second is the emotional. And in doing so, you can tease out the really core issues, such as who is going to really use the cottage, who can afford to use the cottage, and who is motivated to maintain that essentially special legacy in the whole estate plan.
Capital gains taxes, Suzana, can be costly for anyone inheriting a cottage. So what's the best way of sorting that out or dealing with that?
I think the best way to deal with that is with the use of life insurance products, because as you say, capital gains can be quite significant in certain situations and may come as a surprise to the beneficiaries of the estate. So if you have life insurance that is payable on your death to your estate, then those funds will be received by your estate tax-free and therefore available to fund the tax at the end of the day.
Ian, what are some of the other options when dealing with the finances associated with a cottage?
Well, I think there's the neat thing about cottages, and some people don't really sit down to work through, is there are many options. It's not cut and dry that, for example, the idea of course, selling it. That's an easy option and something that's top of mind for some families who just say, I don't want to deal with it. But there are also more sophisticated ways of dealing with the transfer of the cottage property. Things like talking about transferring it during lifetime and starting to put the burden, financial burden and responsibility onto the next family. Creating trusts is an option during lifetime. Creating trusts with the cottage on death is an option. Co-ownership agreements are options. There are a variety of alternatives other than just simply throwing your hands up and saying, give it all to one and live with the consequences of that within the family, or just selling. And it isn't a black and white choice.
But in order to get there, families should talk first and foremost, shouldn't they, Suzana?
Yes, absolutely. I think that those conversations need to be had often and following up really on what it is that people want to do with this asset or how they feel about it. Because even though mom and dad may love the family cottage, the children, and even some of them, may not feel the exact same way. And so knowing what they feel and how they would like to see the property dealt with can really help avoid surprises and perhaps not really guessing how it should have unfolded.
So to avoid a family fight, have a heart-to-heart about the cottage and do it now.
That's right.
Ian and Suzana, thank you. And thanks for joining us on Hull TV.